Kurt Angle's going to come out and cut a promo on you, and he's going to show pictures of you as a rookie. And he really is going to go through your whole career, and he's going to say that your storybook career comes to an end at Genesis. He makes a comment about your daughters, and you come out and you're held back by BG James, Scott D'Amore, and Terry Taylor. This is good stuff, man. Is this some of the better work you and Kurt did together, do you think, this storyline you're working on?
There was such a natural, think how to put the, you know what? I'll call it the natural first time chemistry.
Okay.
We had never worked together. And that just kind of, that thought, that's the first time that thought entered my mind, but it was the very first time. Again, the circumstances, bringing him on board, I was elated. It was, I mean, the face of the company, Spike, the growth, all those pieces of the puzzle. I'd never dreamed we would end up in this position that felt right as a talent to work and go down this road and the story. And so the freshness of working with someone of his ability and talent, I think both of us, again, it was the first time. And I think that raised the stakes for both of us.
The beatdown of Bully Ray is recapped, and it's going to be pointed out that Sting actually walked away and did not participate in the beatdown. Shane Sewell's story is going to be highlighted, how he was almost paralyzed and decided to become a referee instead, but he winds up standing up for himself against Sheik Bashir. The main event of Impact is AJ Styles and Samoa Joe taking on Sting and Kevin Nash in a cage match. Styles is going to climb the back of Nash to get over the cage and get the win in about 9 minutes. And the Torch would recap it, saying this: afterwards, Kevin Nash swung the door into Styles' face. Joe, though, beat up both Nash and Sting in the cage. Angle ran to the ring with a chair to break up a sleeper on Nash. Booker T and Steiner join in. Joe's going to kick the chair into Angle's face, and then tossed Booker into the cage. When Steiner climbs through the ropes, Joe's going to kick the top middle rope to crotch Steiner, and he sets up a chair mid-ring, then lifts Angle for a muscle buster. And Nash is going to bash Joe in the back with a chair. Steiner's going to lock the cage door, and it's a 4-on-1 advantage. Quote, "This is exactly what Mick Foley said they can't do, and they're doing it," exclaimed Don West. The referees ran out to break into the cage. Nash is kicking at them through the cage. Styles starts to climb the side of the cage, but Nash is bashing at his fingers with a pipe. Angle puts Joe's arms in a chair. Sting's going to stop a charge of TNA frontline members on the ramp with clotheslines. Steiner is bashing Joe's arm with a pipe, and the rest of the TNA frontline is trying to climb the cage, but the main event Mafia is keeping them at bay with weapons as the show ends. This feels like almost like the beatdown on Dusty Rhodes at the Omni way back in the day on the way to build Starrcade, is it not?
Oh, wow. Okay. You know, the very core of it is the very, I mean, you can hear, I can just hear old timers. Folks, you got to get heat on heels. You got to build the story. You've got to get the people. And that was by design, exactly what it was. Go heavy with the main event Mafia in a logical way, make the baby faces look great, and then end up with heat. And the little subtleties of Sting walking off and not fully participating in the main event Mafia, I think just all the more intrigued the group. But yeah, It was heat on heels and executed. And again, you got to, I heard Belichick on one of his retirement things here recently, Conrad, and he was, the way he said it was like so spot on. Players win in the NFL, coaches don't. And he was complimenting, but he's won 6 Super Bowls. But I also say in this instance for this segment, you can write the best segments in the world. If the guys don't execute it, it's all for naught. So what is it? The singer or the songwriter? It's gonna be both.
Well said. So you're going to write off Samoa Joe here, and it shows that Foley wasn't able to trust the main event Mafia. They are going to try to destroy TNA as best they can. It's really good creative. The show does a 1.17 rating, 1.6 million viewers. That's a 0.76 in males 18 to 34 and a 0.78 in males 35 to 49. And the peak audience is male teenagers. It's a 1.07. So it's holding really, really well. And the Observer had some notes about the behind the scenes machinations. Vince Russo wanted to push Foley versus Al Snow feud at the recent TVs, but was overruled by Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett didn't want Snow to be a part of the main event Mafia, feeling he likes the exclusiveness of an all world champion group. Frank Trigg was likely to have become a member, but when he didn't clear his schedule to come in at the tapings, I don't think it's going to happen. The idea is Trigg has held the titles in MMA, so he'd fit into the group. Plus, he carries himself as a smug heel well. So let's talk about that in two different parts. Do you remember the idea at any point to include Frank Trigg in the main event Mafia?
Never in the main event Mafia. Him being kind of appendage and hanging around peripheral, yes, but never. It never felt right. And again, so this is 09, and we'll call it 96, 97, the peak NWO, when there were 5 to 8.
Yeah, before it got oversaturated.
Yeah. And I just thought, man, these 5 guys, it's special. Don't muddy the waters.
So talk to me about Al Snow. Do you remember him being considered? And is that fair to say that you're the person who shut it down?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I shut it down, and it was nothing against Al. And I have a strong sense that I told Mick or Vince, and then Vince related to Mick, or a scenario of me telling both. Nothing against Al. And Mick and Al have been tight for years, but I didn't want to, again, muddy the waters. It was try to stay laser focused. I kind of look at the ebbs and flows of our industry, and I think one common thread when the business is, or things are the most successful, is when they're streamlined the best they can. Just keep it simple. Don't try to get too complicated. Let the audience digest it. I think the chairman, Vince McMahon, he's a lightning rod, but I think when you look back 20 or 30 years from now and you look back on his career, one of his main compliments or attributes or contributions to the business, when you study his creative, you really knew how to laser focus the spotlight on what needed to be spotlighted.
We also see a sit down interview with you and Mike today, and it's a mutual admiration society where he's thanking you for the job and you're telling him, TNA wouldn't be TNA without you. And then he's going to say, you were supposed to step away from wrestling and just focus on the behind the scenes and not be a performer in front of the camera. And you actually point out that you hired Angle to take your place and build the company around him. And Tenay asks what went wrong. And Jarrett is going to start speculating that because he's lost so much, maybe he thinks he's become bigger than TNA. But he says, or you say, no one wrestler is bigger than TNA. And that, yes, TNA needs Angle, but even more so, Angle needs TNA. And then Tenay is going to ask how this relationship got so personal. And you're going to say, well, he started talking about my wife, or not my wife, but my life and my family. And there's some things that are tough to listen to. And it turns my stomach. So you're starting to we're peeling these layers of the onion more and more here, where we're blurring the lines of reality of, hey, this is just wrestler A versus wrestler B. And now it's, hey, no, this guy's the original founder and the promotion was built around him. Here's this new WWE wrestler fresh off a hot WWE run. So when you're away, we do sort of build the whole company around Kurt, bringing that real life circumstance makes for compelling TV. Like blurring the lines is what we as fans are looking for, right?
I think at the very core, it is what this may be too broad. I mean, too bold of a statement, but it's in so many ways we all want to believe.
Yes.
Disbelief. The wrestling family, and the only way that you can really suspend disbelief is you got to have something based in reality. And I was doing my cardio and reading the notes and kind of thinking of this overall broad strokes of Jeff versus Kurt. And then I'm thinking reality base and how, because I smiled when I kind of read some of the recaps, and we're going to get to a few other ones in here. But I just think on Lawler Dundee in this Tennessee territory, very, very reality based. At one point, you know, you got Dundee's wife involved, and she got her head shaved. You think about, you know, Zabisco and Bruno Sammartino, and you know, just all the reality base. You can, you know, you look out in Texas and Fritz and the Von Erichs and those guys, and yes, that's the boss's kids, but man, they look larger than life, and the Freebirds, and I mean, you could go to all the territories, Flair and Dusty and St. Louis territory built around the titles. I mean, we could go on and on. I mean, Puerto Rico is full of the Colon, Carlos Colon, and then his kids. But you know, back in the day, all their heated angles. Our business is built off that. I mean, even now, you look at a Logan Paul, and I mean, he comes from an outside world, but he's integrated into the system, and he's using reality based, or they're using. It's just what we do, and when you kind of look and try not to complicate our business, that was the story. Jeff hired Kurt to take his place, so Jeff could step behind the scenes and run the business side of it, and Kurt run the in-ring part of it. Well, things got a little muddy when Dixie got engaged and wanted Kurt to use a little more of opinions and mindsets, and she was trying to use him as a puppet to try to get her way here and there, and things kind of got complicated. And the more successful we got, the more I was second guessed backstage, and you had Mick there, and Mick really was in the generation of the Main Event Mafia, but a huge proponent. And I touched on it earlier, you know, him quasi pitching Samoa Joe and others, and him wanting to see the growth and the upstart. And Mick knew his in-ring days were really behind him, but he had a match here and there left in him, and just anything. Connie, it's a long-winded answer, but it's when you look at all your podcast, almost all the money drawing stuff is reality based. I mean, Austin McMahon is the best.
Yes.
But it is such a simple. The reality is Vince was the boss, and everybody could relate to Stone Cold saying, take this job and shove it. I am the most powerful son of a gun here, and you can't run your business without me now. So what the hell are you going to do about it? You know, NWO and Eric figuring out, I'm going to make the invasion, the North versus the South, and we're going to tear down WCW and rename it the NWO. It's exciting to me to this day. It still excites me when you get something that's reality based, and then you get to play it out and kind of take it down some fictitious avenues. Oh boy, that's when you can really play with emotion.